This may seem like I'm defending David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers.
Whoa, now.
I want to be clear, that's not exactly what's happening. Now that I've put that disclaimer out there, let's talk. Sometimes it takes a little bit of interaction with fans to kind of figure out what the pulse, even when it seems obvious, you got to figure out what the pulse of a fan base is. So someone on Twitter, I believe his name is Mike, went ahead and screenshotted part of our show, which do what you want, right? If you're watching on YouTube, you want to screenshot me in a funny little face, like, I'm mid-talking and it looks like I'm sticking my tongue out or something, go nuts. But he took a screenshot, and the caption was a question that was posed to me by Evan Cohen. So this is exactly what our content should be used for. So again, I'm not knocking the Twitter user at all. Matter of fact, it's awesome. I want more conversations about the Panthers to be taking place. You can have them on our YouTube channel if you'd like, right there on the comments page, 99.9 The Fan. Either way, picture of me, and it said at the bottom, this was a question that was asked to me by Evan Cohen of Unsportsmanlike when he joined the show earlier this week. It said, did the Panthers ruin Bryce Young, or is Bryce Young ruining the Panthers? Right, a little chicken or the egg kind of conversation. That's what it said. And because I was tagged in it, I got every single response. Ding, notification, ding, notification, ding, notification. So I was kind of forced. I was kind of forced to read what everybody had to say, and it became wildly clear that while the responses ranged a bit, there was an overwhelming most popular response, which was, it's not the team as a whole, it's not Bryce, it's David Tepper. David Tepper ruined everything for the Panthers. Can I answer this, David Tepper? Neither. It's David Tepper. David Tepper. David Tepper. David Tepper. The world is blaming David Tepper. And this is why I want to jump ahead of it and say, I'm not defending the dude exactly. It is completely fair to criticize David Tepper. I have criticized David Tepper. I'm just going to call him Tepper from now on out. No disrespect intended, but I just feel weird calling him by his full name.
The Tep.
The Tepster, the Tepperoonie, the Tepmeister. I'm not asking you to stop criticizing Tepper. But I am asking you to open up your blame pie a little bit. Don't let everyone that works for David Tepper skate by scot-free because it's so easy to just say it's the owner's fault. Tepper can hire the wrong candidates for major positions. Tepper can be impatient. He can meddle in personnel. He can do all the things that deserves the criticism that owners get. But when it boils down to it, he isn't the one that fumbled the ball when Jonathon Mingo got tackled. And I don't care if your coaching's bad. I don't care if your roster management is bad. I don't care if the management of the stadium is bad. I don't care if the owner threw a drink on an opposing team's fan. When you're a football player and you have the ball in your hands and you're being tackled, there's one person responsible for the ball security, and that's Jonathon Mingo. Tepper isn't the one that overthrew Deontay Johnson on the first offensive play. Now, maybe he hired the coach who didn't call a good play, or maybe he hired the general manager who didn't trade for the right personnel. Maybe Tepper did that, but in that moment, there's only one person responsible for the ball security when you're throwing a pass over the middle and you know it can't be high and you know it can't be behind, and that's the quarterback. That's Bryce Young. He isn't the one that couldn't call an offensive play to scheme anyone open into time and space for the running backs or the receivers. That's Dave Canales. It's usually it's the quarterback who gets all the blame or all of the credit. And that's never fair either. But when it's the owner, it feels like such a magnetic force, and it's so easy, and it's so much of like a mob mentality where one person goes, Tepper stinks, and someone else is like, yeah, that all of the attention gets put there. That week one, there's a lot of people to blame for that. How you got here last season, there's a lot of blame to go around for that. It's not just Tepper. It is Tepper, but it's not just Tepper.
So yeah, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, Tim. And going back to what you mentioned this past Monday as far as, and I get it, players make the plays, coaches make the call. But it's like you said on Monday. You have one bad game, or you have one bad play, you look at the player. You have one bad game, you look at the coach. You have one bad season, you look at the general manager. You have multiple bad seasons, then who does it ultimately end up falling on?
You look at the owner, and you can you can blame the owner. Blame Tepper all you want. But that's not a get out of jail free card for everybody else. Right? Like if Bryce Young were cut today, right? And maybe that would be a Tepper decision. If David Tepper said, I'm done with him, release him, I don't care how much money it cost me, Bryce Young would be claimed by every team in the league, right? Every single team would want to get their shot at reclaiming whatever potential Bryce Young had. And when he's there, they're going to expect him to not miss late and high over the middle on crossing routes and to not throw interceptions. Now, because he did it in a Panthers uniform, we want to blame Tepper for it. But if he went somewhere else and did it, it couldn't be Tepper's fault, could it? The blame pie in the NFL is very, very big. And you can give a big old slice of that to Tepper or to Dan Morgan or to Dave Canales, whoever you want to. But there's plenty to go around for everybody else. It's I don't know why this is the example popping into my brain. Have you heard of the movie Geely? Geely. Can't say that I have. It is probably 99, 2000-ish, but it starred Ben Affleck, and it's one of the I don't even think I've ever seen it, but it's one of the ultimate worst movies of all time. Remember Razzies? I don't know if they're still around. They used to give out these awards for the worst movie and worst actor, and it was the opposite of the Oscars. If I'm not mistaken, that movie swept through everything, and it's always attached to Ben Affleck because he's the star. He was the it guy at the moment, whatever it is. You know what? There was a director involved in that. There were co-stars involved in that. There were a producer that said, yeah, this will be a great movie. We should cast Ben Affleck. There were lighting directors and props guys, and all of this came together to make the bad movie. Sure, probably the producer or the director would be the one most to blame, or maybe Ben Affleck is the one most to blame. But everybody's to blame. You don't become the worst team in the NFL, which the Panthers were last year, and they didn't look very different this year, without help. What's the you know this?
Okay.
What's the new Morgan Wallen song?
There's so many. I had some help.
I had some help
with Post Malone. Okay,
something about
Is this the theme song for the Carolina Panthers?
I couldn't make this mess all by myself. I had some help. Something like that I just heard it the other day.
So I had some help and buy me a drink can be the two anthems for the Carolina Panthers this season. I get what you're saying though.
It's David Tepper had some help getting here. David Tepper had some help. So I'm not asking you to change how you're treating Tepper at all. What I am asking you to do is keep your eyes open to everybody else. Right? I almost want to go full. I always use the movie references when Graham's here. The Denzel Washington, Remember the Titans? Petey, my blockers were bad. Your blockers were bad.
You're killing me, Petey.
Your blockers don't have anything to do with you holding on to my football.
You're killing me.
I feel like going up to the Mingos or going up to the JC Horns or whoever got beat, whoever didn't have a good day, and having them go my owner's bad. Your owner's bad. Your owner doesn't have a darn thing to do with you holding on to my football. Your owner doesn't have a darn thing to do with man-to-man, you guard that guy and that guy beating you. Matter of fact, I'm going to use a quote from let me make sure I can find it first.
While you find that, I just want to bring up something just to show some fan engagement for everybody that's watching us on YouTube. We appreciate it. Ryan Mewborn brings up this interesting fact, or not fact, but just idea. I know Tepper is disliked, but I thought everyone was saying this season it seemed like he was stepping back and letting Dan Morgan and Dave Canales do their thing. But I thought
maybe
to Ryan's point, I remember at training camp when a lot of people were asking him, when a lot of people were asking David Tepper, or maybe it was at Dave Canales' introductory press conference. A lot of people wanted David Tepper to speak, and the Tepster said, "I'm not doing any media availability."
Maybe he is taking a step back. Maybe you blame him for that. Right? It's the butterfly effect thing. Who's to blame? Well, you want to blame Bryce. Okay, well, who chose Bryce? All right, it was Scott Fitter. All right, well, Tepper hired Scott Fitterer, so it's Tepper's fault. Or Tepper wanted Bryce. Okay, well, who's to blame for Tepper? Well, that's probably the business guy that did. All right, we actually blame the business guy that helped David Tepper make his billions. Oh, but that guy was only around because, like, you can go as far back as you want. Everyone, at some point, you have to not blame somebody else and just take ownership of it. Jadeveon Clowney, according to Joe Person, who covers the team for The Athletic, just earlier today, this is a tweet from 14 minutes ago. Jadeveon Clowney said the Saints imposed their will on the Panthers last week when New Orleans ran for 180 yards and 4.9 yards a carry. Clowney was asked about the key to run defense. This was Clowney's answer. It doesn't matter what the call is. You just have to whip somebody's butt in front of you. Part of it is that. Part of it is I don't care what your owner said or does. I don't care if your owner picked the wrong quarterback. Let's say David Tepper was the guy. And this is what shout out to somebody on Twitter as I just brought it up. Fathom Fisher on Twitter said Tepper is the one very obviously wanted Bryce Young. All right. Let's blame Tepper for the offense. What about the fact that Derek Carr roasted your defense? What about the fact that they didn't force a punt or whatever it was until Haener was the quarterback at the end of the game? What about that? You're so in on just Tepper's the worst. I hate Tepper. Tepper's the worst. Tepper picked Bryce. Tepper's the reason we don't have Stroud. Tepper, that you completely missed the fact that your defense was gosh awful in week 1. And as good as C.J. Stroud is, I'm a big fan. I think he's a future MVP candidate. I think he's going to be around for a long time. As good as C.J. Stroud is, he's not tackling Rashid Shaheed on a 50-yard touchdown. Tepper stinks. I gotcha. But he didn't make this mess all by himself. Dude had some help. I think that's the Morgan Wallen and Post Malone song I heard the other day.